John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville, Maryland, and Virginia. Gary Williams will send out this starting five. Landon Milbourne, James Giss, Bombali Osby, Hayes, and Vasquez, the dynamic duo. And for Dave Lado, his starting five with Joseph, Scott, Pettinella, another senior, Singletary, and Jones. The officials for tonight's game: Carl Hess, Brian Dorsey, Rogers, Ayers. And the opening tip, out of bounds. It will be controlled to the Terrapins.
Key thing, Tim, we talk about Sean Singletary and the whole event of having your jersey retired, to let him settle in for about 5 minutes and see how he's doing out on the floor in controlling those emotions.
Osby throws one up. Oh, the bank is open late at John Paul Jones Arena.
I think he is the key for Maryland tonight. You talk about production, 5 points, 3 rebounds on average in his last three. Has had some illness issues during that stretch. He needs to be dominant inside.
There's a steal by Vasquez. Such a matchup problem is this young man, but he does not protect the ball oftentimes. While he's 6.5 assists per game, he turns it over more than 40 times. And Joseph, who has struggled with injuries, getting the kind of lift-off with his jump shot, nails a tray.
Has shown to be a very capable three-point shooter over his career, but is slumped offensively in the last 6 or 7 games.
Milbourne in traffic, goes to the offhand against Joseph. I was talking with Dave Lado earlier today about Joseph, and he said those Achilles problems have been the issue with Joseph's shot. He's just not had the same kind of lift. So that might be ominous, seeing the kind of start that he's getting from downtown if you're a Maryland Terrapins fan.
Well, his last game as well, Tim, and I'm sure there is a lot of adrenaline coursing through him right now, and that those aches and pains tend to go away while that's happening.
Osby looking underneath for Milbourne. Nice cut and a beautiful find by Bombali.
The last 2 games, 3 of 8 from the floor. They need some production from Milbourne as well. And normally they don't look to score off that cut down low on the flex offense, but he was wide open.
Singletary not there off the back iron.
That's an emotional jump shot, right? It's a long, and he needed to get that one out of his system.
Gist. No help coming, and he decides to take it himself. Beautifully done right over Mike Scott. And Maryland now, Mike, 4 for 4 from the floor.
Well, this is the start they needed, and they talked about it with Gist. They want to bump him off the low block and face up and crowd him inside, but we've seen in the past couple of weeks he can get hot with the jump shot, capable of scoring 30 in a game.
Jeff Jones giving it up to Joseph again. Not there. Scott on the glass gets the putback.
And Scott with a nice push in, anticipating the jump shot.
Osby working in, got a double team, and it leads to a turnover as Jeff Jones knocked it away. Let's get G-Man's game plan.
Well, for Maryland, and they're well on their way. Bounce back, shed last week's disastrous loss to Clemson, and try to come out and get one tonight. For Virginia, transition defense. They're worried about Vasquez pushing the ball up the floor. They want to keep Maryland in the half court.
Pettinella, a role-playing senior, out there as a designated screener. Joseph on a blow-by against Milbourne. Got his man airborne. And the foul committed. Landon Milbourne picking it up.
Here's the look inside, and he just got an angle on Milbourne in the pump fake, and you like that? He has a good base, he comes to a stop, and he has a chance to convert a 2-point play. And then you see right there, and that's the toll that injuries take. And I think a lot of that, Tim, the first 21 games, he was really playing power forward, maybe out of his position, and maybe the rigors of that have worn him down over the course of the season.
Outstanding young man. We got to know Adrian very well during the NCAA tournament run last year in the opening 2 rounds. We were assigned to that region in Columbus, Ohio. They were knocked out in a very competitive game with Tennessee. His family from Trinidad unable to make it for senior night. His cousins escorted him out. And yet another turnover by Vasquez. That's 3 committed by the Terps and a couple belonging to number 21. And And Gary Williams pointing that out right now.
And that's a stat that we will track during the course of the game with Vasquez. And he thought that Hayes was going to stop and turn around and look for the pass, but he held his hand up. He knew he made a bad judgment that time.
Joseph running the curl. Nice find to Scott. Doesn't finish.
Offensive foul inside.
Yes. And it does go against Pettinella, his first.
This one, and it looks right now that aside from the early jump shot, that Virginia looking to establish something in the paint. They take the second most threes in the conference, but they're trying to attack inside and get Maryland's bigs in foul trouble and get to their bench.
Yes, pass to Scott. Scott comes away with the rebound, and Vasquez commits the foul. Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Another loud cheer, much as they did pregame, as Lars Mikalauskas enters the game. This guy brings so much energy, and all the Cavaliers have talked about that really being a piece that was missing in the 13 games he was out with a shoulder injury. See if he can come in here and continue to give them a boost as he's done the past few games.
He's a human floor burn, isn't he?
In that stretch, Tim, they were 4-9 without him in the lineup. 3-3 since he returns. He's really given them a nice, good boost of energy off the bench.
A real tough guy. Loves to bang and pop outside. Gives it up to Joseph. And we're tied at 8.
Adrian Joseph is one of those guys, he's a confident shooter. And then he came out and he knocked down his first one. All of a sudden he starts to see a bigger basket.
Osby. Not this time. Singletary rips it down.
It's an interesting matchup with Vasquez on Singletary. Vasquez big enough to give Singletary some problems, especially when he gets into the paint.
The first time the shot clock's wound down to 15 in the first 5 frenetic minutes of this game. And there's a bump underneath. Foul spotted underneath. It'll go against Gist. Well, we talked about how incredible this series has been for us this season. How about in December? One to remember, Ishmael Smith giving Dino Gaudio his first conference win. A young Demon Deacons team that would surprise, beating Virginia Tech December 23rd.
Maryland and Virginia all tied up at 8 here in the first half, and for the Terrapins, they've had to come back from a crushing loss against Clemson. Some of the headlines in the Washington Post: another nightmare, a major meltdown. They let it all get away. Gary Williams said he knew his team's biggest challenge would be mental.
You grow from there. You know, you try to be a better team coming off that, but mentally, it's tough to come back sometimes, you know, especially late in the year when that happens in a game that, you know, could possibly have a great deal of implications at the end of the year. So, but I think right now we're coming in to play Virginia in a pretty good frame of mind.
Really the ultimate stand-up guy, G-Man. And he knows what's at stake here. This game, I believe, is an absolute must as you look at their tournament resume, and it wouldn't hurt if they got a conference tournament victory after that.
At least, and but they know the position that they put themselves. Unfortunately, Timmy, they've still got the ball in their racket. I mean, they can win a few games and they can make a compelling case for themselves to get into the NCAA tournament, but they have made it harder.
The issue for Virginia, to some extent, when you look at what happened to them a year ago, a team that got a share of the league crown, it kind of proves the point that this is a very fragile game. Some injuries can do you in, even if you have an All-America candidate like Singletary. As you see the youngster Calvin Baker, original walk-on from Newport News, by way of William and Mary, and Virginia now on a 7-0 run.
This is Virginia's best backcourt that's out there with Baker and Singletary. They work very well together.
Speaking of William and Mary, they had a huge upset in the semifinals today of the conference tournament. The Colonial Athletic Association beating VCU.
Well, that's bad news for a lot of bubble teams out there because VCU will get a bid.
And that means George Mason has a chance to play in the finals. They're in the other semifinal tonight. It'll be William and Mary from the state of Virginia in that tournament finale. Joseph.
Well, so far, Maryland has played the pick and roll very well with Singletary, and they've kept him out of the lane. But I look for him to get a little more aggressive now that he's settled into this game.
Vasquez for three. Baker gets the rebound. Outlets to Singletary. Scott on the wing. Joseph, the follow, and he's fouled. Milbourne getting it into the act again. That's the second against Landon Milbourne.
It's been a little surprising to me early on, Tim, that Virginia has done as good a job as they have on the offensive glass against a very good rebounding Maryland team.
Speaking of tournament resumes and teams that fall into similar categories, we'll be discussing that again tonight as this the final regular season game of this conference and what's ahead for the big leagues. Their conference tournaments beginning this week. Teams like Miami had a narrow loss on the road at Florida State. Virginia Tech, Seth Greenberg's team almost pulled it off at Clemson today. Mike, you hit on it a few weeks ago. Never in the modern era have we seen conference tournaments mean as much to bubble teams in the 6 BCS leagues as perhaps this year. Osby gets that one to go. That stopped an 8-0 run.
Well, so far Osby looks like he is getting into the flow and rhythm, and Maryland again pounding away inside. Most of their field goal attempts in this game have been in the paint area.
Neil Tucker's into the game now, number 12 in white. As the ultimate stop and go leaner by Singletary, pressing just a bit. And it's taken out of there by Vasquez. Cliff Tucker is in the game now as well, as you see Vasquez hitting that little runner in the painted area.
Well, that was just a nice cut off of the post feed that time. Good little bounce pass, well-designed play.
Shot clock winding down. And Baker comes up with it. Using the screen from Joseph. Joseph pops out high, decides to launch. Well defended by Maryland.
Well, it's the bigger guards of Maryland right now that is giving Virginia's backcourt trouble, especially on the offensive end of the floor.
Osby. Bombali with 6 now. Maryland up by 3, 14-11.
Well, in ACC competition before this last little stretch, then 12 points, 8 rebounds per game, and he is starting to play like he did 3 weeks ago. He's gotten off to a good start in this game.
Baker pulls up. Way off the mark, and there's the follow. Ever the workman picking up the garbage. Arenas Mikalauskas.
Yeah, they're not going to dump the ball into him in the low block and let him operate, but and any kind of penetration and offensive reboundings, that's where he's going to pick up his offense.
Tucker. Boy, they've given really some positive minutes to this young man in the latter half of the season. Freshman from El Paso, Texas. You really like this young guy, don't you, Baker?
Well, I just like him in combination with Singletary. He's just a more confident player, and I think they play off of each other very well.
Osby picks up the foul. We've got a timeout. You remember a couple of weeks ago, another cardiac night as Wake upset Duke. Beating Teague, who's open again for a 3. The crowd in Winston-Salem will tell you all you need to know. Maryland leads by 3. Wednesday, 10 teams begin their quest to win the Pac-10 championship, earn the automatic NCAA tournament bid. Our coverage of the Pacific Live Pac-10 men's basketball tournament begins on Wednesday at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, in high definition only on FSN. And as we mentioned, all of those conference tournament games mean so very much to the middle of the pack in all of those leagues. Mike, you mentioned this, I believe, a few weeks ago when you were talking about your senior night and the night that they retired your jersey. I believe you said, I didn't remember, nor did I feel like I could remember how to play basketball for the first 10 minutes. And you felt that all the way through.
Well, and part of the reason was they didn't tell me they were going to retire my jersey that night, so I was just frightened. And it was just emotional enough knowing that was the last time I was going to play in Cameron Indoor Stadium. So you put all that into it, and then I really kind of sleptwalked through that first 10 minutes. It was against Clemson. We wound up winning the game in overtime, but it was just a powerful, powerful thing to go through.
Vasquez giving it up to Gist. Defended well by Tucker and Pettinella, out of bounds. Last touch by Gist. I noticed that Dave Lato, during the most recent timeout, got his All-America Singletary on the bench to sit down for a moment. And you can see, I think the emotions did get the better of him early. 0 for 2 from the floor, 1 assist and 1 rebound so far.
Well, and you don't want to come off the floor. He wants to be out there for all 40 minutes right now, and I think it was a good idea by Dave Lato just to give him a little rest, kind of calm down a little bit. Ball game. I can guarantee it won't be a long rest for him.
Yeah, Jones lost the dribble off his own knee, and Maryland gets it back after the turnover.
If you're Gary Williams, this is about as good a start as you could hope for in this game. You've come out, you've shot the ball pretty well, and you've defended well.
Vasquez staying with it. And again, a hustle play on the part of Gravis. Keeps the basketball as he was able to throw it off the shin of Jones. Mamadi Diani now checking Gravis Vasquez.
We talked about last week's game. If there was a positive,
that's an offensive foul against Vasquez
that came out of it. Maryland's bench played very well in that game.
Yes, they did.
And it was the starters that came in. There was turnovers at the end that eventually undid them. But I think Gary Williams gained some confidence in that second unit. Here's the look. This is yet another turnover for Gravis Vasquez, and Pettinella stepping in and giving up his body. Good job for him stepping in.
16 fouls for Maryland, only 1 for Virginia. And Vasquez was holding his hip as though he hurt himself a bit on that drive. Tucker had it deflected. Carl Hess is ruling it out of bounds. I thought surely that ball was deflected, but he didn't get any help from his friends.
Dave Lato is beside himself. He can't understand the call. Looked like a block to me.
Yeah. Carl simply just did not see it. He needed some help from either Brian Dorsey or Roger Ayers, and neither one saw it. It happens from time to time.
There's a look there. Yeah, clearly, that ball is it's not shot that poorly.
No.
It was knocked out of bounds.
But Carl was looking, and his responsibility was another area. Gist. Singletary fighting for it. Over the back, he is fouled. As you see the work being done by Adrian Bowie just into the game, he picks up the personal. Already we're in the bonus, already in the 1-and-1. We want to take a little time to send out our condolences. Tonight, a funeral was held this afternoon in Athens, Georgia for 22-year-old Eve Carson, the North Carolina student president who was found shot to death on a residential street in Chapel Hill. Our thoughts and prayers to Eve's family and the North Carolina campus community. Notice last night, prior to the Duke-North Carolina game, they had a moment of silence, which was certainly apropos.
This is a senseless tragedy. It makes you step back and wonder what kind of world we're living in.
Absolutely. And as the father, a couple of daughters, believe me, it hits near and dear to home. Bernie. Well, he too long to launch a shot, did he?
No, he really made his impact last week on the defensive end of the floor, and I think that may be the one that opens up the floodgates.
You think? There's an unusual swagger that we see from number 44 after he put that one in. A 6-0 run. We had an opportunity earlier today to speak with Sean Singletary. We asked him about his UVA career.
putting on that Cavalier jersey and playing in front of a packed crowd day in and day out, and going on the road and having Virginia fans there. I mean, I'm just real happy, and I really appreciate all the support, Cav fans have shown across the country. And without them, I won't be able to get my jersey retired, or wouldn't be able to have as much success as I've had in my career.
The senior from Philadelphia with a really proud moment. Prepped at William Penn Charter School. His mom and dad had a chance to visit with him, Mike, and there's absolutely no doubt he came from quality stock. Mom and dad did a tremendous job with him. Osby fouled by Pettinella.
I don't know if there's a program in the ACC that has relied on a player more in the last 4 years than this program has relied on Sean Singletary.
Agreed. And he lost his running mate, J.R. Reynolds, of course, who's now playing in Europe. There's Mom and Dad, Harold and Jackie. By the way, I believe Harold told me prior to the game, he said, it's nice to meet you. He said, I remember you and Mike said, did you see that when he made a play in the NCAAs last year? He said, well, I like you guys. I said, well, we like your son. Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Well, Tim, I had a chance, too, to talk to Sean's mom, Jackie, and you're right. You can clearly see where he gets everything from his parents. I asked her, I know it'll be hard, but what are you most proud of? And she said it's just how humble he is. That's how we raise our children to be, and that's what he exudes and what we're so proud of him for.
Yeah, he allows the outlet mentally to be the game of basketball. He plays with tremendous confidence, but he is a very humble kid. Nice run out that time by Adrian Bowie. The freshman from Greenbelt has really played well.
Right, he's gotten a lot of confidence and got it early in when he was playing over Eric Hayes.
Singletary with the answer.
And he may try to take this game on his shoulders. His team is struggling a little bit offensively right now. He's a scoring point guard, and we know that he can do that against Miami. 41 points in that game.
He has the last 7 Virginia points, does Singletary. Hayes raises the front iron, and Singletary's on the loose again. Oh, does not quite finish, but it was a beautiful move. Slapped away by Mamadi Diani. Baker pulls up. Osby clears. And Gary Williams asks his guys to settle down the pace just a bit. Osby thought an alley-oop was coming. Had Gist timed, but Gist didn't go for it. Bowie not there. Tucker the rebound.
It was like a wide receiver that breaks off a route, and he just stopped on the play.
Singletary, a scoop to the hoop. He does get fouled. It goes against Cliff Tucker. How about Wayne Ellington and his dagger of a three in overtime, double OT. Lawson over to Ellington for three. Bruce Hornsby and another good keyboard player by his side, Rick Carlisle, right?
Yeah, Rick Carlisle actually sits in with him. I've had a good fortune to know Bruce for a number of years, a huge basketball fan, lives over in Williamsburg. And actually when he tours, Rick will show up with him and sit in and play a few songs as well. Rick enjoying a life away from the game of basketball. And Alfred asked him early on, and he said he'd consider the right coaching job if it came up, but he was part of that 1984 team that went to the Final Four after Ralph Sampson graduated.
By the way, the idea of being close to musicians, and I know you are, have you ever thought about maybe picking up the mandolin, G-Man?
I could pick it up, I just can't play it. I told Britt I'd be his roadie for a year, for a summer. That'd be a good summer internship for me.
For a guy your size, that is a relatively small instrument, you know. You should be able to handle it. Gist turns it over by taking a few steps. I think he knows this game's a little important, Gary Williams.
Well, and the thing that was their undoing against Clemson has showed up here early. Turnovers hurting Maryland.
Singletary has the last 9 Virginia points. Well, that quick double team led to a turnover there. Loose ball. Milburn comes out of there with it. Count it! And a foul. going to the offhand. He got the bump and then used the glass.
It has been the secondary players that have helped Maryland in this game. Gist and Vasquez a combined 2 of 10 so far, but how important are loose balls in a basketball game? Milbourne coming up with that and a chance for a three-point play opportunity.
Hey, he's 3 for 3 from the floor tonight, is Milbourne. Mike Scott got the foul for Virginia. His first. Singletary, little stop and go, gives it up to Mikalauskas. Nice dip.
The interior players for Virginia are going to miss Sean Singletary next year because those easy baskets might be a little bit harder to generate.
Osby in traffic. And the bump was coming from Scott.
Here's the look inside. And the thing you have to understand, Virginia last in the conference at blocks and under 2 a game. So if you're Maryland, you want to attack the rim. Osby is just a wider body than anybody they have.
Second foul on Scott. Couple of reinforcements coming in. Joseph re-enters the game, as does Jamil Tucker for Virginia. Hayes also will exit, and Bowie, Vasquez, and Big Dave Neal, the junior from McLean, Virginia. Bishop O'Connell, number 35 for Virginia, into the game for the first time. Osby gets one of the 2. Cavaliers by 3. Just over 6 minutes remaining, and Bombali Osby leading the way for the Terps. He has 8 points. Tucker. Again, after splitting the double team, Singletary finds the open man.
He's just so hard to guard like that, and almost triple teamed out front. But once he got past that, there was a number situation. Tucker with a wide open look.
Vasquez posting up, which he's prone to do. That tremendous size advantage that he has gives him the ability to be a matchup nightmare for most teams.
Well, we saw it especially against a smaller backcourt, which Virginia had, and he took advantage of that in Winston-Salem against Wake Forest. They do have a couple of plays designed to get him the ball down on the low block.
A moving pick that time whistled against Scott. That's 3 quickies that he's picked up. I checked that. Tucker picking it up rather than Scott. And for Tucker, that is number 1. 28-24 Virginia.
Here again, Vasquez down on the low block.
Milbourne pops up. That's his first miss, but there's the follow by Bowie.
I'm normally not a big fan of a point guard on the offensive glass, but Bowie able to convert that time.
That was a very difficult pass, even for Singletary. And they're going to say last touch by Mikalauskas. And Dave Lato is in disbelief.
Carl Hess was the one who was buried underneath, and he got run over by this play. Really didn't have a good look at it. He was looking for help from the other referees out front.
Cal Baker now checking Vasquez, and he does have that tremendous size advantage. Now he pops out and comes up empty. Singletary may have been surprised by the pass, but he reeled it in well, just could not finish. Milbourne in traffic, threw that one up, was hoping for help. Bowie trying to save it. He did. Last touch by Joseph. Maryland will control it underneath their own hoop.
When Milbourne made this play, he jumps up and actually he is standing. I think he was still inbounds when that plays. And just right there, he takes the step back, and that's what caused the out-of-bounds call.
Heel was just on the inline. Look at the difference there. Terps getting all of theirs in the paint, it seems. Bowie. He plays a nylon song. Boy, what a performer he's been of late. 7 points tonight.
Really recapturing the confidence that he had early in the season.
Hamadi Diani with a fadeaway that won't fall. Vasquez has Osby, Neal, Bowie, and Cliff Tucker on the floor. Oh, what a move by Vasquez. Tucker found him, cutting to the basket. 31-28. And a 9-0 run now for Maryland. Baker. Boy, nice drive to the basket by the young sophomore.
Very strong, and a good pump fake that time got the defender up in the air.
Tucker again. This one pulled down by Jameel Tucker, and he's fouled by Adrian Bowie. 3:11 remaining in the first half. The Terps by 1. Maryland leads it by 1. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth. Let's take a look at the first round matchups in the ACC tournament in your hometown of Charlotte, North Carolina.
I think it's laid out right there for North Carolina to get certainly to the finals. If they play and hold serve, Virginia Tech, a team they handled easily during the season. Duke with a tough draw against Clemson. Again, if those two teams hold serve, and sets up a possible third matchup between Duke and North Carolina.
And I would make a case that the Maryland or Miami matchup against Virginia Tech would be perhaps an elimination game for the NCAA tournament for one of those two teams.
Yeah, Virginia Tech team that beat Maryland twice already in the regular season. No question about that.
As we said, there's so many meaningful conference tournament games in the early rounds or potential quarterfinal matchups in a number of conferences, in the ACC right at the top of that heap. Well, both teams tonight getting quality production from their benches, Mike. Maryland with 9 points from their bench, Virginia with 12.
Well, you look at it, and what Virginia, this has been a strength of theirs in this stretch. We talked about they won 3 of their last 6, which certainly an upgrade over losing 10 of 11. And a lot of that has come off the bench in the form of Michalauskas and Tucker and Diani. They've got and Baker. I mean, it's you can make an argument right now. You've got bench players out there, but this is their best squad.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of teams getting healthy towards the end of the season. Virginia, one of those. Baker gets the long rebound. Singletary and a wind sprint. Oh, how special.
I just don't see anybody from Maryland that's been able to step in front of him and slow him down, even after a made basket.
Now, he sat, you might recall, with a little more than 10 minutes remaining in the half and was 0 for 2. From the floor, he now has 11 points. Gist. Answers for Maryland.
Much like my experience, Tim. I mean, that first 10 minutes, very fuzzy. You're trying to do too much. But after that timeout, he really settled in that time off the floor.
Baker got caught airborne and decided to bail out by giving it to number 44. Shot clock winding down under 10. Nice move on the part of the veteran Singletary. That'll be 3 shots from the free throw line for him. Fouled by Bowie.
Not a good decision by Bowie that time, trying to lay off. He was so wary of Singletary's ability to go into the paint area. He gave him room to shoot.
Singletary to get to the free throw line for those 3 shots, and Bowie now has 3 fouls after giving quality minutes to Gary Williams.
Yet another asset that he has. I wouldn't characterize Singletary as a great shooter, more as a scorer, but he is very solid at the free throw line at 85%.
Hayes re-entering the game now for Maryland. I think he's going to be an interesting piece to the postseason for Maryland. He seems to have that quiet demeanor off the floor, but if they get him more involved, Mike, Maryland is a much better basketball team.
Right, he's their best three-point shooter, but you know what, Tim, he's been and a guy who takes care of the ball normally, but in the last 3 games, 5 assists, 13 turnovers, so he has to clean that up, and he can certainly shoot the basketball.
Neil Tucker coming away with a rebound. Singletary giving it up, right back to Jameel Tucker. Near acrobatic putback by Diani.
Right, what you have to do is grab the ball and come down with it. then put it back up. He wasn't in a good position for the tip. James Gist has been very quiet in this game so far.
Well, that was a smooth move by Vasquez. He read Tucker beautifully. Cut to the basket for the easy one.
Yeah, the defender turns his head. I just love that when you feed the post and you see things open up like that. Just a straight basket cut. Basketball 101. Very elementary, but very effective.
Vasquez has 8. And the Cavaliers lead down to 1. Very entertaining first 20 minutes. Baker runs the curl off the pick from Michalauskas. It's rejected by Gist. Vasquez has Tucker with him. Deflected by Singletary, out of bounds to Maryland. Coming up at halftime, the FSN final score, and we'll recap the ACC women's final that played earlier today. Junan and I will recap the first half. It's all coming up on our ACC Sunday Night Hoops halftime show. Tucker, what an entry. Beautiful pass to Jerome Burney, and the redshirt freshman delivered.
Well, right now, it's been interesting. It has been a great first half, and I think Maryland has performed with a lot of pressure. This is a must game for them. Virginia can play more freely, and they've shown it in their offense, and Sean Singletary has really stepped up and taken a lot of the load on his shoulders. But I'm impressed with Maryland's first 20 minutes coming back from last week.
Out of the 1-4 set, time to initiate. Shot clock down to 5. Diani. Gist with a quick outlet. Diani goes back to intercept it from Tucker. Still time. The right man has it. Singletary. Not there. Boy, the place would have exploded had he put it in. But an entertaining first 20 minutes. Maryland with a 1-point lead, 37-36. At halftime, a 1-point lead for Maryland. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth. You know, Singletary played all but 1 minute of the first half, Mike, but on this senior night with his jersey retired, was that 1 minute out of the game that perhaps helped him most.
Yeah, I think it helped him to get back into a rhythm. You see him being introduced right there, his jersey getting hung up, huddling up before the game. This was the jump shot that really got him going right after that timeout. He's done such a good job of penetration, getting to the free throw line, looking for his own shot, and also setting up his teammates.
As we look at the numbers in the first half, the bench points have been plentiful. And getting to the line, Virginia, they've had a big edge there.
Well, and Gary Williams has got to wonder why he's got such a dominant edge in points in the paint, and he's only had that there 5 free throws. So I think it's been effective for him. They're going to keep hammering away. I also anticipate Maryland trying to get James Gist involved in the offense. He was very quiet in the first half.
Jones being checked by Hayes, gives it back up to Singletary. Jeff Jones off the bounce. Milborn fouled by Pettinella. Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Well, Tim, Mike called it exactly what Gary Williams talked about when I saw him coming back onto the floor. He said, we've got to get to the free throw line where we're only 2 of 5. We've got a lot of points in the paint, but we're not getting to the line. Meanwhile, for Virginia, Dave Lato said, the beginning of the game was concerned transition defense. Done a good job there, but in the half court, they're giving up too many points in the paint. They've got to do a better job of rotating over.
Osby there with a follow. Boy, Boom Boom has had quite a night.
He got off to a quick start, now 4 of 5 from the floor, and yet another offensive rebound for Maryland. Talked about it that they don't have anybody along the front line. I think you can match Osby in athleticism and strength.
Scott with a pump fake, got Gist airborne but unable to convert. Joseph, he's fouled. Got a couple of the Terrapins airborne. I think Gist was tagged with the foul for Maryland. Second personal foul against James Gist.
The thing with him, it's going to be critical for Maryland in the second half that Gist stay out of foul trouble. I think Scott bailed him out by taking that jump shot. But when he gets in foul trouble, he becomes less aggressive. He doesn't get to the free throw line as much, and his offensive game suffers.
We should mention the young man from Trinidad is also a co-captain on this team. Pettinella sits down after picking up the foul. Adrian Joseph, beloved personality on this team. Pettinella, by the way, got an early third. And Michalauskas back into the game for him. He provides much of what Ryan Pettinella does.
But a lot more offense.
Absolutely.
He's averaging this stretch coming back over 10 points a game and in league play.
They are really happy to have number 11 back. And reasonably healthy. Hayes feeds Gist. Nice pass to Osby. Boy, what an interior pass by James Gist.
Now, those two have really worked well together this year, and that's a difficult, doesn't look like it, but a difficult pass to connect from 3 or 4 feet away. Those two have an idea of when that's coming, and Osby was ready for the catch.
Now, there was a period in late January, early February, Mike, I think you would agree, James Gist really sort of put the Terrapins on his back. He's cooled a little bit in the latter stages of February and the first week of March, but he can carry a team much as Singletary could. Here he is from up high, off the front rim. Singletary, the long rebound. Don't blink. Oh! A 360 whirling dervish.
And we got a turnover down the other end. Just the pressure by Jones causing Gist, I think, to step over this over the end line. But this is what Sean Singletary does. He is virtually impossible to stop in the open floor. And it's not speed, but it's his ability to twist and turn and get around you to make you miss.
His real speed is almost, and I'm going to use an old term, it'll date me, but it's basically every record is at 78 RPMs. Look at that. Just taking it right into Osby, picking up the foul. Little tap on the head from Bombali. For Singletary.
You can remember back as a freshman, he had shoulder issues and it really hurt him, but he has been healthy ever since. And the thing about him, he's been fearless in being able to go inside and take on bigger bodies, absorb the punishment, and get either a three-point play or get to the line. This will already be his 8th and 9th free throw attempts of the game.
By the way, he is now, as of that free throw, 8 points away from 2,000 in his career. He was 11 away at halftime. He now needs 8 more points to hit the 2,000 plateau. On this, his night, when the jersey was retired.
And he appreciates it now, Tim, but he'll appreciate that jersey retirement more and more as he gets away from here and comes back and sees it up there. It just becomes more special.
You'd certainly know about it. There's Osby. Baseline fadeaway by Bombali.
Joe Harrington told me they needed the bomb back tonight, and I think they've got him.
Joseph not there. The follow. Jameel Tucker. He has 6. Sophomore from Gary, Indiana.
Well, and I know that Dave Lato really likes both what Jameel Tucker and Lars Michalauskas bring to them up front. It's going to be a heck of a matchup going up against Gist and Osby.
Milborn had such a great start in his first 3. Giving it up. That's an offensive foul against Osby.
Those are 2 wide bodies banging against each other. Osby trying to get the quick spin. Michalauskas anticipating that baseline spin.
3rd foul on Osby. And that's going to quickly get Jerome Burney up into the scorers table. He'll be coming in on the next dead ball, number 32 for Maryland. As aggressive as Osby is on this end of the floor, you better be careful or he might pick up a 4th foul. He overplayed right there. Oh, Joseph on the reversal. A throwdown.
You can just see what Michalauskas does to this team, though, and just made that play. A beautiful wraparound pass as well. The Achilles don't look like they're bothering Adrian Joseph right now.
Tucker off the feed from James Gist. Yeah, this was some wraparound, wasn't it?
Well, we've seen some beautiful interior passing by the bigs for both teams. Cut off right there. That's just very unselfish look, and Adrian Joseph with the finish.
And you notice that aggression from Osby, overplaying and trying to get in front, even with the 3 fouls. Let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Yeah, just on Adrian Joseph. You know, this is the first time he's been in double digits in a month, and he talked about those Achilles problems that he's had. You know, he said it's just a mental thing because he feels like he's a good shooter. It's a physical thing. He still believes he's a good shooter, and he said he gets inside, gets some close baskets that might get him going.
Well, he made that first three, and I think that helped. He got his confidence going, and at a time really when Singletary was trying to shake out some of the ceremonial cobwebs tonight.
And all of a sudden in this half, Singletary looking around, he sees he's got some help offensively.
How about that scoop? How about that scoop to the hoop?
Well, this is why Duke had to go to the zone in the second half of their game, Tim, because they couldn't guard him man on man in those screen roll situations.
Joseph gets the deflection and the steal. Singletary's eyes lighting up, stop and go. Giving it up to Tucker on the wing. The Terrapins will get a timeout. Listen to this crowd. Virginia leads by 7, opening moment, second half. What a performance early on in this half by the All-American. We asked Dave Leto, has he allowed himself to even think about not having him on the floor next year?
It's a scary thought. You know, it's a nightmare that I don't want to close my eyes and live right now, obviously. But Sean has been a wonderful ambassador for this university. He speaks to all the ideals that the University of Virginia is all about. Our basketball program is obviously better for having him, myself included, and college basketball as a whole.
But the thing is, Tim, that he has such mental control over this team that what Dave Leto is hoping that as he moves on and graduates, somebody will fill that void and step up, somebody maybe who wasn't willing to speak his mind with Singletary there. But clearly, he is the conscious and the driving force of this ball club.
No doubt. And Calvin Baker, when he made the transfer, became a walk-on from William & Mary, said just the honor of being a backcourt mate of the likes of Sean Singletary was a dream come true for him. Shot clock at 5, and Vasquez must follow. Not there. Run down by Joseph.
Kind of a lackluster possession coming out of the timeout.
Singletary. Tucker gets the rebound. Cliff Tucker for Maryland. With the dump down to Gist. Boy, that's a great shot, isn't it? He came down gingerly on that left ankle, and he is hobbling. Singletary, a leaping leaner that won't go. Baker comes away with it. Count it. Let's see if Gist can shake it off. He was limping badly, noticeably, on that left ankle.
And as he's trying to run it out, he's looking better as he's coming up the floor. It's funny how a player always looks better when he's running on the offensive end as opposed to the defensive end.
Vasquez off the curl, knocks it home. He's trying to shake it out. I mean, you can see that it's improved the last couple of times down, but he's grimacing a bit. It's a little tender. Boy, a near steal by Bowie, taken back by Baker. Shot clock winding down. Mikulauska setting the pick. Tucker drives and pulls up.
I thought that ball was hit up on the rim.
Yeah, I did too. Joseph gets the follow. May have gotten away with one there. 13 points and 5 boards for the other big senior tonight from San Fernando, Trinidad, Adrian Joseph. Vasquez. Oh, the iron unkind. Singletary the rebound. Beat. He lost that one on the way up. Literally slipped out of his grasp. Tucker, nice look to Bowie, who goes reversal. That's a 4-point swing right there.
Well, those two, Cliff Tucker and Adrian Bowie, really gave Gary Williams some nice minutes off the bench, and that was a terrific break.
9 points for Bowie. That's a 5-second call. And Lato can't believe it. He talks to Calvin. We've got a timeout. Gist with a beautiful fall away, but you could see where he came down gingerly on that left ankle. He'll try to shake it out when we come back. The Cavaliers lead it by 4. Tim Brando, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth. We've been talking a lot, as have other announcers this time of year, about the bubble. And I think a lot of times you need to look at other conferences and their teams that are in similar positions to those in the ACC. Virginia Tech, let's look at them, Mike, because this is a team that swept the Maryland Terrapins, does not have a win against a top 50 RPI team. Almost got one today against Clemson.
I think Oregon probably makes the strongest case right there. And I rely on the strength of schedule. I'm not a big last 12 game fan. I don't really know what that means.
Yep.
But, you go down to the bottom, you got Miami, and those against the 2 A-10 schools in Dayton and St. Joe's, the Miami, the strength of schedule is huge. They finished up strongly. And then interesting mix of Syracuse in that tough Big East has the best strength of schedule of that group.
And that Marquette win looms large because it's impressionable at this time of year.
Syracuse to me is the Maryland of the Big East. They've been living on the bubble for the last 5 years as well.
And you see James Gist. Let's get an update on his health from Jen Hildreth.
Yeah, Tim, I was standing behind the bench of what at first looked to be an ankle, actually was cramps in both of his calves. He was having to try out both calves, so we'll have to see how those affect him as the game wears on.
Osby took an extra step.
Well, and the thing with that, you saw him trying to drink, but once you have cramps, that's too late. You needed fluids about 30 minutes ago to avoid happening what he's doing now. So he's just going to have to ice it out, try to get it stretched out, and try to get as much fluid as he can into him.
Sean Singletary was scoreless in the first 10 minutes and 45 seconds of tonight's game. He has 20 points in the last 16:41. Diani rattles one home.
And he's the guy who's capable of exploding. And Josu's played a wonderful game, but Diani, especially from behind the arc.
5 assists now for Singletary. Jerome Burney, Milborn, along with Osby, and Adrian Bowie joining Vasquez. And Bowie launches again. Boy, is he red hot. He was 6 of 6 last Sunday. He's 5 of 6 tonight. He's hit 11 of his last 12 field goals from the floor in the last 2 games.
By knocking down threes, they can keep Eric Hayes on the bench. And Bowie just doing a marvelous job at both ends of the floor.
And a bump committed by Bowie. And another of the many outstanding moments of ACC Sunday Night Hoops, Jason Rich playing the nylon song.
And it comes to Jason Rich. Jason Rich puts it up. Got it with 4.3.
Virginia leads it by 4. Next Sunday, the groundbreaking show that combines sports and science returns as we examine some of the most dramatic injuries in sports and talk to the people that survived them. Sports Science examines Field Warriors next Sunday at 9 p.m. only on FSN. Well, 13 seconds after red-hot Adrian Bowie hit a 3, he commits his 4th foul. And he's forced to the bench as we come out of the timeout. Mamadi Diani looking for Baker and turned it over. An errant pass picked off by Maryland.
Keep an eye on Gist here early on to see how those cramps they work coming out off the bench.
Looks pretty stout to me. Had pretty good lift on that jump shot. Milborn not there. Jerome Miense is coming to the game for the first time. Osby tries to save it. Headed for the percussion section. He just doesn't stop. I mean, his motor is always running.
Just so much more active, Tim, than I've seen him in this last stretch. We talked about his struggles over the last 3 games, but he has played like he did a month ago in this game, just locking up, anticipating that shot, and then knocking it off of Scott.
Boom, boom, ready to toot his own horn there. 14 points, 5 rebounds, 6 out of 7 from the floor. He's been very active. Gist in traffic is fouled. Sandwiched that time by Scott and Singletary. Mike Scott gets the foul. Let's go back over to Jen Hildreth.
Well, Tim, talking about Bombali Osby, after that Clemson loss, he was quoted in the newspapers as saying, we've got to look at ourselves and ask, how did this happen? And one of the big things was a loss of aggression. You can really see him making an effort, as you guys have talked about, to be aggressive in the paint and let that continue for the whole game. He went away at the end of that Clemson game.
Yeah, he did. Third foul, by the way, committed there moments ago by Scott. Gist looking for Osby. Nice job of saving it with the shot clock winding down. Vasquez pumps. Rebound by Jerome Niense. Baker got caught in no man's land there. Turned it over.
You have to go into the air as a scorer, not a passer.
Milborn reversal.
Landon Milburn has been very impressive to me this game. He's played very under control, and he's done a nice job out in the open floor.
Scott, yes, and a foul. That's 4 on Osby.
A huge pickup right there, and this was an incredible pass by Singletary inside. And Scott has a tendency in this game to drift a little bit, but that time shaping up big in the paint, making himself available, demanding the basketball, and then finishing.
Off yet another dish from Sean Singletary, who has a half dozen on the night.
Sometimes, Tim, you can get in the lane. You see guys, they get in position, but their body language says, don't throw me the ball. That time, he demanded it.
Vasquez, not there. Diani the rebound. Has Joseph on the wing. He'll pull it back out. Wait for a little help. We'll give it go. Count it! And a foul. Mikalauskas giving it back, and he takes it to the rack.
They've done a terrific job with this basket. Watch this. In here, post feed, and then right into the open lane. This is a great Mikalauskas play a couple of times. The direct pass, the defense can't get over in time.
Oh, that's from Lithuania with love. Diani really appreciated that dish. And Dave Lato pumped up. You said this to me yesterday, Mike. We were together in Winston-Salem for a game, and I asked you, is there a team in the Atlantic Coast Conference that you see that has a chance to do what NC State did a year ago, get on a roll and surprise everyone by making it to the ACC tournament final? And you didn't wince. You said Virginia.
Well, you just look, and I was trying to look at somebody at the bottom half of the draw, and then this team getting healthy, getting bodies back. They're playing inspired basketball right now, and you've got a great point guard in Sean Singletary who can put a team on his back. So the ingredients there. Their first-round matchup will be Georgia Tech. That's going to be an interesting game.
Well, you're taking a look at those matchups and the seedings for the action that begins this week. Look at that. The free throw discrepancy is huge. Oh, that's 14 more at the strike.
Why, when you take shots like that, you're not going to get to the line very much. A fall-away jump shot from the free throw line.
Those first-round buys are always deemed very important for teams during the regular season. It also improves the team that you're going to play to impress the tournament selection committee should you get a win in the second season. Virginia by 7 with just under 9 remaining. Vasquez, well, that's a huge three to keep the Terrapins in contact.
And he's hit some big shots in this half, most from the perimeter.
Diani stays with it. That was a little too easy getting to the 10. Gary Williams not at all pleased with his defense.
Diani 0 of 3 in the first half, a non-factor, but has come alive here.
He has 8 in this half. Hayes coming off the screen. Beautiful play. Took advantage of those picks on the baseline and knocked it home. His first points.
And this is, since they're not getting to the line, Maryland in the first half only 1 of 8 from 3, and it's the three-point shot that's keeping him within arm's length here.
Yeah, I really think he's the X factor. He is an outstanding talent. He's confidence has been shaken a bit, as you mentioned, Mike. Few too many turnovers of late. This game warms up. Look out come the ACC tournament. Oh, that's just outstanding work inside. Mikulauskis so strong. 67-62. Vasquez giving it up to Hayes. Virginia's defense really extended. And the mismatch was taken advantage of by Hayes. He fed Landon Milburn for another easy deuce.
Well, he just kept curling, and he had Mikulauskis in front of him, and that's what you do. You dribble at the big guy, extend him a little bit. The defense had to shift over.
Diani hanging in the air. Mikulauskis again. Stays with it. He'll get right back to the line. A never-ending attack of the 10. How about that drive and the flush? Maryland maintains contact on the road.
Virginia with a 3-point lead over Maryland here in the second half in Charlottesville. Obviously one of the big stories tonight, Sean Singletary's last game, but other stories in the ACC this season. You got to look back at Coach Krzyzewski's 800th win, becoming just the 6th coach in NCAA history to do so. Tyler Hansbrough having a heck of a season for North Carolina, ties an ACC record by being named Player of the Week in the conference 7 times. Clemson, they picked up their 10th win for just the 3rd time in school history, and an ACC record. 12 conference games going to overtime. I don't know, Timmy. This one's looking tight again. Could we see 13?
I think we may, Jen.
Well, and you're going to see that guy take over, I think, in the last 6:45 when he gets back on the floor. It's going to become Sean Singletary time.
By the way, I want to take time to congratulate Oliver Purnell, G-Man, on getting that 10th conference win. His team is fun to watch play the game, and I think they're going to be an absolute nightmare matchup in the NCAA.
And it was as emotional as I've seen a coach on a senior day
with Cliff Hammonds today.
With Hammonds and James Mays,
absolutely.
And it was Sam Perry, and there was a lot. He was moved to tears early in that game, and it just at the end the way that game played out, you could just feel it was a very cathartic experience for the Clemson fans, knowing they're going to the NCAA tournament.
And he's beloved in the industry.
And breaking one of the longest droughts in the ACC, tied with Florida State, has been 98 since they were at the Big Dance.
Gist for 3. Way too strong. Joseph clears.
That's a shot that James Gist makes when he's hot and in a groove, but to try to get back into the offense, he does not usually knock that down.
Osby's going to check in on the next dead ball, though he does play with 4. Gary Williams knows he needs his physical presence out there. Now, Virginia's been living with their reinforcements. 32 of their last 69 points coming from the bench. Thank you.
4 of their best players play off the bench. I mean, it's just been a big part of what they've done over this last stretch. And again, the interior passing, Mikulauskis has done a terrific job of setting people up inside, and Tucker with the strong finish.
That's going to be very dangerous. You mentioned Virginia and how strong they could be in the ACC tournament. There are so many teams around the country that, because of the fragile nature of this game, only 13 scholarship players in college basketball, you lose 2 or 3, you're down to 8 or 9, you can't practice. Suddenly they get healthy, and just the time to spoil it for bubble teams in conference tournaments.
Yeah, and you know what? And credit Dave Lato and his staff for really keeping this team together. I mean, they went through a horrific stretch, and it really started, Tim, when they played Xavier and got blown out in that game by almost 40 points, and it wasn't even that close. There's the foul trouble you see for the front line, and that's something that Maryland can ill afford. Virginia's reserves much better than Maryland's reserves up front. But point being, you got a team that goes and loses 10 out of 11. It's really easy to lose that group. Yep. Clearly that didn't happen here. They got some people healthy, and they got them back, and they're playing pretty well right now.
Well, and early in the year, after a disastrous loss on the road by Dave Lato's team at Xavier. I mean, they lost by 40, and we had them at Duke shortly after that game. And as you mentioned, Mike, he did not lose them. And you're so accurate with that statement. Milburn. You mentioned, and I was hearkening back to that conversation we had with him. He knew way back then that it was going to be a difficult chore for his team. So he sort of sensed what was coming.
Well, and everybody talked about J.R. Reynolds and his loss, but I was thinking today, Jason Kane was a big part of what they did last year, and I think maybe underestimated in what his absence has meant. And then you throw in the injuries to the front line to guys like that.
Mikalauskas giving Virginia a 7-point lead. He's got 11 off of the Virginia Pine tonight. Osby over Mikalauskas. Not there. Tucker.
Mikalauskas, the one body that can bang with Osby and force him to take that type of shot for Virginia.
Look at that pass. Mikalauskas can't get it to fall, but he was ready for the throw. What a pass by Singletary.
He should get an assist for that anyway.
Just a gem.
And that was a big miss. That was a shot that could have broken Maryland's heart.
And a foul off the ball. Look at this.
And you have to be ready to receive this ball. The no look right there, and Mikalauskas, knowing that he's playing with a great point guard, was ready to catch and just couldn't finish.
Oh, that was just pretty. It really was. Well defended by Osby. We should give him credit with the 4 fouls, not picking up the foul. And he's taking a chance to sit down. And now you see the career points we mentioned a moment ago. He's 5 away from the 2,000 plateau. Milburn, by the way, picked up the foul on the other end for Maryland. Keani. And the foul. Gist was trying to stay with him. He picks up the personal, and he's aching again. Those cramps giving him trouble again.
Yeah, once you can see the twitch and you can see everything tightening up. And Timmy, once they come, it's very difficult to make them go away during the course of the rest of the game because you're always in fluid deficit, and then you're running up and down. It's really tough to control.
And the foul thought was credited a moment ago to Gist. It was. And that's number 5. So he thought he only had 3 fouls, but he had 4. And we documented that a moment ago. He felt he only had 3, so he was unaware that he had the 4 fouls, and he is very upset.
Well, and that's the thing, and foul trouble is what has plagued him. When he's had his poor games, he's scored around 11 points per, and when he does that, Maryland is very, very vulnerable.
Well, you have to feel for the youngster because he really did think he only had 3. He came back to the bench saying, I thought I only had 3. This Maryland team is going to need a lot more from its bench. And look at that. Bench points are just for men stay in the game point of the night.
I'll reiterate, Tim. Maryland starts their best 5. I don't think Virginia starts their best 5. I think their best unit is comprised of a lot of guys coming off their bench.
It was that 4th foul he committed on Mikalauskas a couple of minutes ago. I think he lost track of that. And he really feels deprived. You know, when a player is unaware, it's shocking when he has a 5th foul call and he's thinking it's only 4. Milburn with the dump down to Bernie. He took an extra step. Lifted the pivot foot.
Well, I think when you're playing Maryland, and this is just, you want to get to the point where you've got Osby and Gist on the bench, and Virginia has been able to accomplish that.
The lead is 9, largest of the night for Virginia. The clock winding down near the 4-minute mark. Tucker on a
I really like the energy that Tucker and Mikalauskas bring to the floor. And Gary Williams are very close to getting a tee right here.
Boy, look at Osby getting his guys together. They know what's at stake. It's very emotional over there. this is just too easy. You can't believe someone's going to be there to give you defensive help. We apologize. Scorers table determined that they were going to take a regular break when in fact it should have been a longer one. Singletary's hit a 3. Maryland has answered with 1, and now Diani on the other end. Bowie trying to recover the rebound, and there's a foul. And now we'll take the normal break that we were under the impression was being taken a moment ago. It is our season ender, isn't it? 80-71, Virginia by 9. Great moments from earlier in the year as Clemson rallied to beat Maryland just a week ago tonight.
I remember reading, up and flying back from that money, reading the quotes from Gary Williams, and he said that may have been one of the toughest losses he's ever had in his entire coaching career.
Yeah, I have to tell you, Mike, he was such a stand-up guy after that game. Came out to Johnny Holiday, the radio play-by-play broadcaster. He comes over. The crowd had not even left the building yet, and he was answering questions from his radio play-by-play guy about what had happened during that collapse over the last 11-plus minutes of the game.
Well, he sets the tone for his team. That's what the coach does. And you stand up, and it happened, and you address it, and you face it, and you answer the questions, and you learn from it, and you move on.
We're talking with Carl Hess there. It's an emotional time, and we may be looking at that particular sequence, the end of that game, as being really what turned this season in the wrong direction for Gary Williams' club. They do have that huge win against North Carolina. That's a big one. The tournament selection committee will take that into account, but they're going to need help in the postseason tournament. You see Singletary just 2 points away from 2,000.
This is no time for Virginia to get passive in this game.
Burney gets the jump hook to fall.
A lot of pressure falls on him offensively with Gist out of the ball game.
Singletary lost it. Vasquez to Bowie, who just could not reel it in. But it was deflected off Tucker's hands. A break for Maryland.
There's the look on the rush up the floor, and I think he just got his fingertips back in time.
Vasquez is rejected. Diani on the other end to Singletary. He's got 2,000.
And what an appropriate way to get it to me off the break, too. And I think I talked about it. Stay aggressive if you're Virginia. Keep attacking in the last 2 minutes.
He's the 39th player in ACC history to reach 2,000. Burney rejected. Staying with it. Vasquez can't get it to fall. Baker pulls it down, and Vasquez the foul. That is rarefied air, Mike. You know a little something about that.
Yeah, and it's a testament to him. Like I said, really had severe shoulder issues when he came in as a freshman. And then to have a coaching change, and Dave Lato talked about the immediate, he didn't say immediate bond,
yeah,
but it was pretty close to immediate that those two forged.
Well, you mentioned the tears Oliver Purnell had today with Hammonds and Mays and those guys. Dave admits openly in his first meeting with Sean Singletary, both were moved to tears in a private meeting between the two. What a second half, Mike.
Once the cobwebs cleared in the first 10 minutes, he was back to being himself, and he has been a terrific floor general. And I think the thing he's most proud of, he's had help from his teammates in this game. He hasn't had to score 40 points. He's been dishing assists, and that was his 2000th point right there.
Well, as we're winding down towards the end of our wonderful season of ACC Sunday Night Hoops, we'd like to thank all of the media relations directors from the various schools, from the ACC office, plus a lot of people in our FSN family who've done a great job. Our opening musical teases each week have been produced by Brian McCullough. Associate producers Todd Green, Mike Griffin, Brian Rome, and Jason Headings. Associate directors Jill Cassard-Cook and Chris Conley. Remote production support in Atlanta by Bill Cochran. Technical directors John Tackett, who's with us tonight, and Vince Hutcherson. So many more that we need to mention, and we'll try to do that before the evening concludes. Virginia by double digits.
I would say that rank up there is a pretty good night, Tim. You get your jersey retired, you score 2,000 points. That's not bad.
Here we go again. Diani slamming it home.
Doesn't look like a 4-11 team to me.
Neal for three. Got it. Maryland trying to keep the pressure on. The lead is 10 with 1:22 and counting. Singletary will bring it back out. Oh, he'll do it himself. Just everyone move aside. The stage belongs to number 44. Bowie misses the jam. That should do it.
Yeah, I think a curtain call may be in order here.
I think Leto's thinking about it. Baker for three. Timeout. He wants to get it. Listen to this crowd respond to Sean Singletary and his troops. What a moment.
I tell you, it doesn't get any better than that right there.
It's been a pleasure to cover your son. Tears in the eyes. Father and son, ball in a dream, and a mom that's so proud. Vasquez. Tucker gets the rebound.
Telling you, this could be a dangerous team in the tournament, Timmy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been calling you a prophet all year. And for Maryland, a lot of work to do in Charlotte. A couple of wins would help a great deal. And it's tough on the road in any outstanding league. Gary Williams extends a hand to Dave Leto, who's had a tough season. Tremendous respect that they have. And now the ACC tournament brackets are officially set.
Some pretty good, compelling first-round matchups. Virginia against Georgia Tech, Miami there, and then possibly get the Boston College, Maryland. That game huge for Maryland and setting up the rematch with Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, they may be able to win their way into the NCAAs if they can exorcise the demons of Clemson.
Got a monster lurking there at number one, though.
Don't
Tim.
you? Absolutely. Well, Sean Singletary is extending a hand to everyone, and let's go over to Jen Hildreth. Jen?
Well, Sean, congratulations. Could you have pictured a better ending?
No, I couldn't. I just give all the credit to my teammates, give all the credit to the Lord, for guiding me along my journey. And my parents did a great job with me. So, and Coach Slater put together, a great game plan. And even though the record don't show how much hard work we put in, I love my teammates to death, and I wouldn't trade it for anybody in the world.
Yeah, what do you say to all these guys behind you, Sean? I know they have a lot they'd like to say to you. The biggest thing being thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate them for being there and for working hard with me every day in practice and coming out and battling games. Without them, I wouldn't be nothing. And I give all praise to them and the Lord and my mother. And I'm just thankful for the situation I'm in.
This emotion's starting to hit you a little bit now, isn't it?
Yeah, my throat a little hoarse. I got a little cold, but hey, man, we got a great win. And like I said, our record don't show it, but we put a lot of work on. And it's a hell of a team, hell of a player, hell of a coach, And we just, we tried our best. And even like I said, the record don't show how much this means to us, but hey, we work hard for it, we deserve it.
All right, and I think we got to say it, Sean. A heck of a player. Congratulations. We look forward to seeing you play in the ACC tournament. All right, Tim.
Jen, I remember at the end of the second round when he took that last shot against Tennessee that could have sent the game into overtime, and when he missed it, the look as he hit the floor in Columbus, Ohio, and his coach came over to pick him up. What that meant, and for him to have this coronation tonight is outstanding.
But you know the difference, though, Timmy? He knew he had next year.
Yep.
And the thing is now, there is no next year. This is it, and this is a great tribute to him at the end of the game.
And again, our thanks to so many of the other support people we have: Max Nagin, John Zorbach, Stacy Huggins, Dave Hutchinson, graphics by Karen Egan and Richard Houston, our operations department, Kendall Boo, Aaron Carlson, Matt Stosick, Mike Long, Harry Stedman. Travel, thank you, Nicole Raptulis all year. Our fellow ACC Sunday Night Hoops announcers, Ron Thulin, Dan Bonner, Debbie Antonelli. Our directors each week, Lonnie Dale and Rick LaCivita. Producers, Joe Vincius and the Doctor, Robert Steinfeld. Coordinating producer, Craig Ritchie. The executive producer of FSN South, Hammond Reynolds at the controls. FSN Senior VP of Production, Doug Sellers. CP, Ron Graulick. Operations, Stacy Sunny. Programming, Jeremy Langer. Our Houston studio coordination done by Judd Tednetsky. And a final thanks to ACC Commissioner John Swafford, Associate Commissioner Carl Hicks, plus George Johnson and our friends. We have many of them at Raycom Sports. And G-Man, it was a pleasure being with you all season long, partner.
Can't believe it. What a year for the package, Tim. We've seen some incredible basketball.
Yeah. And we were the only game in town during that day part for most people around the country, and they were greeted to some outstanding games. Coming up, most of you will see the FSN final score. Now this is Tim Brando for the G-Man, Mike Jaminski, Jen Hildreth, our entire production crew saying so long from Charlottesville. We trust you enjoyed the 2007 and 8 season of ACC Sunday Night Hoops presented by Pizza Hut. Now let's relive some of those brilliant moments. No one's played better than Duke. They play harder and they play better than most. Mike Krzyzewski joins me. I think, though, this Wake Forest team, that's say Krzyzewski. Mike Jaminski, well, they're both, yeah, okay.